Thank you for listening to Living Our Best with Memory Loss.
Hi, I'm Bob Stryer, one of your podcast hosts. I do have mild cognitive impairment, MCI, and it was brought on by a stroke.
I'm Sue Ann Cobb. I'm one of your hosts. I have mild cognitive impairment due to having MS.
And I'm Dennis Lowe, also a producer of this podcast, and I have a diagnosis of young onset, early stage Alzheimer's disease.
I'm David Bollinger. They call me Debo. I run the equipment here so you can see and hear these guys. Welcome to our podcast, Living Our Best with Memory Loss.
The purpose of this podcast is for people to share their experiences with cognitive decline. It is not to provide medical advice. We are not doctors, and we stress that what might have worked for one person might not work for others. If anything you hear on this program inspires you to explore treatment options, we recommend you do so in consultation with your physician.
Welcome back to another episode of Living Our Best with Memory Loss. Today we have Todd and Polly joining us. I remember we were trying to find guests for the show, and we had a meeting here of people. We had a little dinner, and I kept saying there was a guy with this beautiful hair, and I couldn't remember. And then I ended up pulling up some footage where I had shot some pictures, and I said, this guy here. And I think Dennis said, oh yeah, I know, that's Todd. So we were, that's how I remembered him. Your hair, I don't know if you got it cut, Todd. Was it longer?
Yeah, it was a little bit longer. Yeah.
Oh man, that's the
Just
most.
got a haircut.
And
Thank
obviously,
you, yeah.
I'm a hair guy, as you can tell. So glad to have you and Polly back with us.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Good to see you, Todd.
Good
And
to be
Polly.
here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming. So let me ask you a few questions to start with. What was your profession? You
Well-
were a carpenter or something?
Well, I have been a carpenter, and I've worked with kids a lot. I was a teacher in a what we back then we called preschool, but it was alternative school. But it was just a different, smaller number of kids and a better ratio. As a co-op, parent co-op, and then I also got involved in a program where kids that had a really hard time in life and had been lost their parents, had been taken away from their parents, whatnot, and we were sort of hands-on with them, and they were in foster homes, but we were hands-on with helping them try to navigate and grow up, which is pretty difficult. They've been through a lot.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. For
yeah.
sure. Well, that sounds like a good thing to do.
Yeah, no, it was, it was good. We did a good job, but I wish, the outcomes, I wish it was an easier job.
Well, let me ask you questions about your dementia. How old were you when you found out about it?
Well, I think it was back in probably 21 when I started thinking it was a constant, that there was something maybe amiss. My family, my memory may not have been up to par, before then, but that's sort of when I remembered it was a little bit of a problem. Yeah.
So then when were you diagnosed?
It took about a year to get sort of used to the idea that I needed to do something, and then to get an appointment. It was hard because apparently the baby boomers are now hitting the hospitals and the medical care, so they're overwhelmed with people with memory loss.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
Terrible.
yeah.
Especially if you're anxious and you know there's something wrong and you can't get in.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I also was reading that you have a woodworking shop, that you do woodworking.
Yeah, I used to, we bought a little house back 50 years ago and had to do a lot to get it to keep standing up. And then we added on as we went, and had a lot of friends that were in the same boat. So we had work days, but then I ended up enjoying doing it more. I wasn't raised really to be a carpenter, but I enjoyed it. So that was handy as far as coming home and
Well, now you're working around a lot of real dangerous tools, I'm sure, with your woodworking,
yeah.
but you don't find that to be a problem?
No, I've been real lucky so far. I drive. I I work around the tools. Um, I'm, so I'm real lucky about that.
As far as measuring things and being
Oh
able to
yeah,
get no
yeah,
problem.
yeah. I don't have any problems. I can't think right now of where I really. It's mainly memory. I mean, I can be walking from one room to the next to get something, and I'll just totally forget what I was
I think
doing.
we can all understand that.
Well, that's a common thing people say, but it's it has quite an impact on you. I mean, the amount of time I spend in a day turning around and trying to go back. I mean, if somebody looked at me and watched my pattern of walking, they would say, "What's wrong with this guy?" So,
So, what is your diagnosis?
it's Alzheimer's, and there you go. That's what it is, Alzheimer's. So,
We see Dr. Monica Crane.
Right.
She insists she does a spinal puncture
Mhm.
to confirm, and she likes to do that. It's also if you ever wanted to be in a trial, that had to be done.
Right.
So that was done right away, which confirmed it. She looked at the pattern of the brain MRI and felt it really was, confirmed it with the other, but said it was very mild. And she said, "Who insisted on coming here today on the first one?" And I said, "He did." And she got up and said, "I applaud you, to come so early." But it was diagnosed early on.
Todd, when you received your diagnosis, how did you feel about that? That's something that we're asking a lot of our guests that come to share with us because people have different reactions to it. And I'm interested in how you felt.
yeah. Well, it was a blessing to have somebody articulate exactly what was going on, and we were both pretty stubborn people. So, just in the course of our own time together, we have different opinions about things, and we have different opinions about memories. So, uh, I struggle with being on the low side of the memory spectrum because I knew she would take full advantage of it if my memory was not as accurate. So
So, how do you feel that it most affects your day to day living, Todd? And Polly, you can pipe in here too in terms of how it affects, both of you all. So,
memory, and I have a hearing loss, and it's pretty severe. I have hearing aids, and that is apparently not uncommon. Uh, it is intertwined as far as what your brain's working on. So, not being able to hear people, like if there's in here right now, it's just me talking or one of you. But if two of you start talking and I'm trying to talk or I'm listening to her and y'all start talking, then my brain just sort of really gets confused. And at this point, I just check out because I know what's happening and it doesn't do me any good to sit there and try to listen to everybody. So I just try to be polite and check out, which affects my social life for sure. But I have wonderful friends, and so it's a balance between spending time with them, but at the same time, I don't need to have everybody trying to make sure that I can hear because it just doesn't work.
Now, do you wear hearing aids?
Yes, I have them on, and
Can't see them.
yeah, they're good, and they also Bluetooth into my brain, into my ear. So like phone calls and things like that are perfect.
Yeah, I know I have a hearing problem also, but I think mine, a lot of it was brought on by doing a lot of shooting
Well,
without having the muffs on.
I
And
hunted, so I had
yeah, and that's not
shotgun up.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
have that problem also.
yeah.
And Lori keeps saying, "Put your hearing aids on." I said, "I can hear you fine."
No, you usually say
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I try to encourage people. That's one thing. I mean, everybody's got their own sort of situation with their hearing loss, but that's one thing I learned. Whatever help you can get, as far as people around you and everybody, it's important to wear them.
Well, Polly, tell us a little bit about what you've done through your life and your professional life, and then kind of how it is for you as Todd's partner in dealing with some of this, and then has there been any positive thing of it? I can sit here and think about my situation, and even though I can, if I want to, I can focus on the negative, but there have been some positive things that come out of it too. So I just wanted to give you a chance to share with us.
Sure. Well, I did not grow up here, but I've been here for about 50 years.
Anybody from Lynn, Massachusetts can't be all bad.
That's right.
I think that's so amazing that
I
here we are in
know,
Knoxville,
I know.
Tennessee,
spent
at a random group thing, and you guys know right where each other live.
Lynn
Yeah,
was
that's great.
a
That's
lot of
great.
my life there.
Yeah.
And I taught and retired from the Tennessee School for the Deaf. And sometimes they'll say, "You worked with deaf people all your life and you don't look at me," which is true. At the same time, I was signing all the time. And, I said, "Well, they didn't have to look at my mouth. We just signed across the room." um, we have always both have strong personalities, right? So there was button heads generally and how to work it out. My feeling is different parts of it got worse for me because I was sort of confused. It didn't follow the pattern of us disagreeing with each other in the same way. I had a hard time with that. He did too. I mean, he did too. Todd is very sharp, he still is, for sure. After the diagnosis, I don't know. My feeling is generally we both got counselors, went to doctors. We both got on medication to bring things down. I think that has helped. I think the biggest thing for me is the support group that we go to every Tuesday. And the very first time we met with Monica Crane, Todd said, "I think when he heard it for the first time, I'm going to need some counseling. I don't want just a sympathetic listener. I want somebody that understands what's going on." And she said, "Yeah, we can work with that, but I'll tell you right away, the first thing there, you want a good support group." So he went that week, to the first, as soon as he heard it, and he came home and he said, "Polly, they have a group that you can go to also." And I went the next week. And it's so important to me. It is so important to me. And I feel like our group is like that, in and out of this support group. We're tight out of it, we're tight in it. We're on texts and phone calls and visits a lot. Means a lot. Doesn't mean that my personal counseling, that is also very important. So what, in a nutshell, it seems like with all of it, I hear is you just let go more, which I should have been doing all our marriage. You stop and think, does this really matter? I know I'm right, but does it matter to keep going?
I love how you said that.
Yeah.
And I really want to thank you for sharing the fact that this is not necessarily an easy path to walk as a person individually and as a couple. And I know Lori had shared in another podcast that she had noticed some personality changes in Bob. And so, and I know if my spouse were here, she would say the same thing. And but to share that, you know, you sought help and you were open to getting medicine, and the importance of a support group. You know, this podcast is to encourage and help others develop things that will help them. So I really appreciate you sharing that, Polly, and what you've shared, Todd, because the whole thing is you don't want to feel alone in this, you know. And I mean, that's the worst, you know, is to feel alone with something that really affects our day-to-day life the way this does. So thank you for sharing that.
I'm also a member of the SAT group. SAT is an acronym for Sharing Experiences Together. It's very important to have that resource, to have a group that that you can be relaxed being around. And no matter how trying it is sometimes out there, trying to understand, trying to communicate. Um, it's wonderful to join friends and not have to worry about.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's there's so many different, I guess, diagnoses too as people get older, and so there's a variety there. It's not all necessarily the same. But in our group that we attend, it's certainly it's a place where we can be pretty honest with each other, and so admit our fallacies and our wishes that could do better than we're doing. But at the same time, we have real friendships, and I feel good that Polly is with another group. You know, the spouses.
Todd, let me ask you another question. I believe that exercise and diet are very important to our disease that we have. It seems to really help. But do you have anything that you do that's we should know about?
Well, we live out. We're just out in the county, and we have enough property around us that we start out with probably about an acre. We probably got 3 now, but a lot of it has to be tended to. So, and we don't pay somebody else to do that. So, I'm doing a lot of that, and she certainly jumps in too. We have a house that, like I say, we had a lot to do with building, and so there are things that have to do. And I enjoy being home, and so I can take my time. I'm not as productive as I was, but I can just keep knocking away at things.
Well, you're still doing things, and that's the important part about
Oh
it.
yeah,
Staying active.
yeah. And Polly, I've cooked less. She's always cooked more, but I cooked more. One of the things that I want to get back to cooking more, but her cooking, she works really hard at a good, healthy appetite, good meal choice, from whatever things she reads about and stuff. And I eat fairly carefully. I can also, jump into a junk thing and eat, but
Everyone can.
yeah. So we're real lucky about all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and the diet is helpful, and we could probably do more. But
Well, Dennis, what do you think? We're going to get a dinner invitation here?
That would be great.
If we play it right.
well,
yeah,
we'd love to have everybody come out sometime and have just a
be fun.
gathering out there. We have room for it.
Now, was there anybody else in your family that has the same dementia?
Well, yes, my mom had it, and it stayed. It was, as far as I remember, it was a dementia diagnosis. It wasn't an Alzheimer's, but luckily she was just remained a very positive person, which was wonderful. And right up to the end, I mean, she got more ill, I think, from age, but the dementia increased also. Um, so that is true. I did have that. And I don't know if my siblings are talking about it. My older sister says she feels like she has a memory loss and whatnot. So it may be there.
Yeah, that's something I meant to ask the other people. I think we should always ask our people in their family so we can get an idea of what's happening with.
I think that's a good point, Bob, because as we know, memory loss is a big umbrella, and there are lots of reasons to be under that umbrella, and you alluded to that earlier, Todd, about the people that have different maybe causes of their memory loss that are in our group. We exhibit a lot of the same symptoms and behaviors, and however, there could be other causes. And so depending on who you know that's had it, you may have a preconceived notion of what memory loss is like. And what the purpose of this podcast and what we're seeing is that more and more we're saying, you don't have to go sit in a rocking chair and look out the window, after your diagnosis. You can live our best life and have continued to have a life that's full and rich and very satisfying, and also have suffer from memory loss. So I think that's one of the things we're trying to do is change that narrative or stereotype that people have of memory loss. So that's a good point, though, to bring that up. And
memory loss is a natural part of getting older. So, sometimes, I have to admit, I am a little, I don't know, jealous is not the right word, but they'll ask me how I'm doing, and I'll tell them. They say, "Oh yeah, I know what you mean," and I want to say, "No, no, you don't." But it is a part of natural aging. So,
and one of the gifts for me of this and being with other people, but the support we get from others, is that it's teaching me more and more the value of being in the present moment.
sure.
Because that
I
there's
feel
just
yeah.
it's just a valuable thing, and for me not to be way out there about something that hasn't happened yet, because I might miss something glorious today, and so I feel like our group and my friends and loved ones, often I'm brought back to the present moment. And that's a really good lesson for any of us, no matter our physical, mental, emotional difficulties, to really try our best to be in the moment. So.
No, and I feel very lucky, and my family is very supportive. And so, here we are.
Yeah, he's got.
Well, Todd and Polly, we appreciate you being here today for sure.
Yeah, I just want to thank y'all for putting this together. It's a great thing, and I hope a lot of people will get to see it and benefit from it.
Well, we certainly hope so.
Yeah.
And I think everything you said, I think it's really true. We've had some really better times because we're figuring out how to let go of stuff and move on more than we did when we were younger. So we're grateful, blessed for all that.
That's important. Well, thank you again for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.